then all of a sudden he can really shine. I'm excited for it as well. Let's get it on. Our first official game of the DreamHack SC2 Masters fall. Top left side, this man was part of it previous season, and he's here again, and that is already impressive. Can he make a good run this time in the group stage? Hailing from Russia, it is Arctur.
I missed the song intros, man. And in the bottom right, as the red Zerg for Razor Edge Gaming, is Blah.
I want to say for our schedule, I truly hope that Bly just rather wins these games kind of convincingly, because oh my goodness, the fantasy GG timing is one thing, but Bly has really been pushing this to a whole new level over the last few weeks. Casted a game where he played against Hero Marine just the other day in the European Pro Tour Weekly, and well, I have rarely seen a Zerg stay in a game being down 2 bases and 45 workers and 60 army supply, but Bly was doing it, and I was like, oh my goodness, mate, I get it. Like, we all want to fight, but you're pushing it right now. So for the schedule, Jazz, I really hope that he just wins these games.
Yeah, it's funny because Bly gets this, you know, a very appropriate stereotype of being cheesy, and thus we think cheesy is short. But actually what happens is that he might cheese, sure, but then he just stays in the game for a very long time, past the point that, you know, a Scarlet would have been like, yep, didn't work, okay, time to tap out. So actually, Bly gives us some of the longest games possible, whether he cheeses or not. So far, nothing from the early game anyways, although Arctur is going to be, I think, pretty on point with that scouting. Always SCV scout against Bly. Why wouldn't you? That's exactly what he's doing.
Yeah, especially on this map where Bly is quite known to take one of those bases with the rich Vespian gases and then go for a Ravager all-in, or even march a couple of Queens from that base. But this time Bly is like, nope, we're gonna open relatively standard. Now with Bly, things never stay standard for too long. But so far, all of this actually makes sense. This is the way we see it. All the big boy Zergs do it as well. Couple of safety lunks on the way. The drone is fighting the SCV. Oh my goodness, the SCV wins the epic battle. First blood of the season goes in favor of Arctur.
That's a nice use of the SCV. Yes, we saw for a while there, you know, the Korean players were setting out the SCV scout, which, you know, is great. Maybe back when like Roach Ravager, oh well, okay, speaking of which, was more popular, and then they actually were using it to block the third hatch, and then kind of stopped that for a while. I'm actually glad to see the SCV going back to block that third hatch. Now you have to be suspicious though, because Bly, not only a guy who predetermines, okay, I'm going to go for roaches, will also do it at the drop of a hat. He is definitely that guy on ladder who goes, oh, you blocked my hatch? Well, you know, screw you. I'm going to do a roach warren attack.
Wasn't planning on really using it anyway. I can do all of this off 2 bases, my friend. Now, this doesn't necessarily have to be an ultra all-in. Like for a lot of other Zergs, it'd be like, oh my goodness, he's going for it. Bly has a lot of weird builds, right? Where it's like, no, he makes 4 roaches. Okay, this time he makes 9. That is a proper commitment. But even then, he might go into drones behind this, because Bly is just that weird. He's like, oh no, this is the casual 9 roach pressure of 2 hatcheries. And, you know, Lambo would be scraping his head. He's like, mate, that doesn't make any sense. You've got no economy. Bly's like, no, it's pretty good. So we'll see. We'll keep a close eye on the production tab. For Arctur, it's mostly important to just sniff this out. At this point, he's got to be like, wait a minute. I wasn't even really controlling that hatchery space anymore. Why is there no hatch yet? And he will spot the casual 9 roaches running to the other side of the map. This is such a big investment by Bly.
It absolutely is. It's such a big investment, too. I'm really surprised that Arctur is trying to hold the low ground. I mean, you see 4, as you're pointing out, and sure, you try and hold. But to see that many, you know how committed it is? He's going to try and bunker up. I mean, he's already swapped off his barracks and his factory, so there is that. But you got to figure Ravager's on the way, so the Liberator usually can't help. Actually, it's just going to be the roaches, so Liberator, yeah, just jump on top of that Ravager. There you go.
I might actually be able to get that one Ravager, but the Roach is already in the natural right now, getting a couple of SCV kills. We do have 4 Marines inside of 1 bunker, so I actually think that Arctur is going to be... He's got the tank on the high ground as well. These Roaches are going to be annoying though, and this is where Bly gets a bigger lead out of these scenarios than he is supposed to get against a lot of other people. He's really good in dragging this stuff out. Then eventually he's a Terran, you're like, I'm safe, right? And it's like, safe, but you lost a lot of mining time, you lost a couple of additional SCVs. I gotta say though, I kind of like the defense by Arctur, right? Like there's not much to really criticize him for.
There is not. I think it was a little scary. It's a scarier way of defending that, but it worked out. I guess Death Ore, not one of our shorter maps until those middle rocks are broken down. He had time with that scouting. That was, it was a pretty fast scout right when Bly left his own base. He had time to swap over the barracks and the factory and produce those Marines. The obvious best case scenario for Bly is that the guy is still making Hellions, especially because Arctur committed to an armory until he saw what he did. That is, he was committing to an armory. He was going to do a Hellbat attack. And Arctur just had time to appropriately respond, and that he did. It can be a bit of an awkward transition for the Terran, and this is where Bly's style trips up the not top 5 Terrans, right? They kind of have to adapt a little bit to building 2 tanks, for instance, which you don't usually do at this point. But Arctur seems to be taking things in stride, using his minerals really well. And I mean, I would be shocked if he didn't anticipate a Spire follow-up, if he wasn't more aware of, okay, what's the next problem? As that's what Bly does. He doesn't just hit you with 1 punch, he's got 2 or 3.
Yeah, if Bly doesn't do one of his weird early game attacks, he does often like to go for those 2-base Spire builds. And in that way, I actually kind of like the idea of going for a Hellbat attack initially, as that seemed to be the original game plan. I was like, yeah, I can see why that's good against Bly, because I've seen Bly plenty of times trying to make Mutalisk of like 4 slow Zerglings and 3 Queens. I'm like, well, then a Hellbat attack would be really good. Obviously, we've got a completely different game on our hands right now, but the landed Viking in the main base is actually going to pick up a couple of drone kills as well. And I believe we've got a Liberator at the 3rd. Oh my goodness. Is Arctur just kind of owning Bly over here, Jess?
A little bit, yeah. The Viking in the main, not as effective against Zerg compared to the other races, but still helped out, still distracted Bly. And Bly really didn't want to make any Spore Crawlers to prepare against just a Liberator because, theoretically, just Queens can take care of it. But, I mean, that little bit of greed is actually costing those 8 drones. It's currently an even worker count in TVZ, not great for the Zerg. And Bly is just constantly remaking those drones instead of making, the next army.
Yep, and his economy is not exactly up and rolling, right? Like, it's not just that he lost 9 drones, but he's been forced to pull drones from the main, the natural, and now the 3rd twice as well. He does have double Evo, and he went for melee and carapace, so I'm expecting to see a Baneling nest go down in the near future as well. Okay, there we go. I was about to say, otherwise those melee upgrades are not going to be incredibly useful. But you can see that Bly is a little bit flustered. There are 3 drones in the center of the map now, following the Zerglings. Hello, Bly. What are we up to, mate?
Yeah, I'm guessing he just accidentally made drones with the round of run-by-lings he made. That's understandable, but a little bit awkward. That Bailey nest, though, you brought it up, the timing, I'm glad to see it at all, but oh boy, he's got to buy some time for those Baneling speed to kick in, and that's going to be really problematic. Arctur is already ready to go, and this Marine run-by barely bought any time at all. The middle rocks have been broken down, shortening the distance between Arctur's 3rd and Bly's. This is going to be a scary hold.
Yep, Bly needs a miracle. He's got 0 Banelings out on the map right now, so we either need to see some amazing corrosive balls, or we really need to see Arctur mess up. The tanks are not sieged up yet. Is Bly just going to go for it immediately? Seems like the answer is yes. And the tanks are actually shooting at the hatchery, so 2 tanks go down without firing once at the roaches. And it seems like Bly is barely going to be able to defend. Oh my goodness, if the tanks didn't shoot at the hatchery there, and they are a little more protected by the Marines, I really don't think Bly's army was that powerful.
It wasn't. It was absolutely because the 3 tanks were jumped upon and did not get any shots off. So that was a bit of a mistake there from Arctur to hope that I guess he found him truly out of position, or that he found him being really, really greedy, and that wasn't quite true. Now, he still did a good job of making sure to target fire down those Ravagers, and he still has a drop left over here that is bothering Bly. But with that hold, Bly's given himself at least a bit of a chance in the macro game, although he really wants to get that 3rd hatchery. Bly is now up 4 bases, 72 drones, still losing a couple here and there, but he's actually set himself into that position where I believe Bly makes comebacks happen. He's got Ravagers and he's got Banelings, and he just needs to try and find Arctur not paying attention.
Here is my hot prediction for the game. Within 25 seconds, Bly is going to research Burrow.
Okay, I think it would be awesome if he did. But actually, despite Bly being the cooler, more cheesy, kind of weird player, I feel like I don't actually see him do Burrow that much. I wish he did it more.
He loves to burrow Banelings, especially when he's feeling behind, and I feel like he must be feeling at least a little bit behind. We do have this double drop trading out fantastically at this point. First of all, a lot of Zerglings went down, and 7 drones went down as well. Arctur is also pressuring the 3rd, and don't forget that Hatchery is still incredibly low on HP. Bly is in all sorts of trouble.
Yeah, losing that third hatch. A little too devastating on top of the drones going down. Arctur is just pulling this guy apart. Oh, and he finds the drone transfer as well. So a lot more drones are going down. Arctur is winning the game even before this second 2-2 push. But certainly with that push coming, I think he'll be able to even maybe a little bit A-move. He's even clearing up the creep. So Bly really has something to depend on.
Bly's gonna make 6 Ravages. He's still kind of struggling with this drop that's been bouncing between the main base and that fourth base. Bly is in so much trouble. He's gonna try to clean this up and he will pick off a Marine or 2. But being down 14 workers and being down a base and this hatchery in the bottom is actually, well, I want to say it's in a little bit of danger, but that's only 4 Marines. Oh, man, this Bly actually did just not look very good in this game, and Arctur looked pretty damn amazing.
Right, yeah. Arctur made a bit of a mistake with the first push, but not a catastrophic mistake. So he's macroed very well behind it, adding in those Marauders, continuing with his upgrades, been very on point with upgrades. Finally, we do have Burrow started as things calm down, but I don't know if it's going to affect this game. He's got to research, and then he's going to set the Banelings. It's kind of a perfect scenario for it. He's trying to make a comeback. He's got no creep spread, but he is not ready to place them anywhere.
Nope, and Arctur just knows that he's in an absolutely amazing position. This time, just defend those tanks a little bit better. We do have a Zergling counterattack on the top side of the map, picking up a couple SCVs, and potentially canceling this command center that was trying to become a planetary fortress. But that doesn't really change the fact that Arctur still has a massive army, and unless he makes another big mistake in controlling it, I just don't see a way that Bly cleans this up.
I think his plan is to try and push this back and then start littering Banelings around, but I don't know if he's going to be able to clean it up. It requires quite the mistake from Arctur. He does go a little bit too deep onto creep, loses most of his Marauders, but still saves all those Marines, and his tanks will also be able to move forward. This is not a bad run by whatsoever. It finds the non-planetary command center, grabs the tank, but didn't really do the distraction I think Bly was hoping for. He's basically holding on to the hope that the Marines will not move out of the way of these very few Banelings he's got going forward here. This seems like the GG attack, the one you know isn't really going to work, but you gotta try anyways. But Bly does not GG too quickly. At any point, if he has Banelings, he thinks he's in this game, and he's not gonna give up.
No, he's got 1,800 minerals in the bank as well, but in his defense, he's obviously been losing 2 bases. So Bly just simply did not have the larva to spend his money. This is not bad macro. Nope, it's just been shut down by Arctur. And at this point, you're always going to float a little bit if you're only working with 2 hatcheries. I mean, Bly is still going to try, but he's down 12 workers, and he's basically down a base and a half, make it 2. And the 3 upgrades are about to kick in for Arctur as well, who's maxed out. What a good showing by our Russian Terran here in Game 1.
Absolutely fantastic. And, you know, historically, this matchup is not that great for Arctur. He doesn't get, slam dunked by Bly, but he does usually lose. Maybe that's all in the past, man. He slaughters the Ravagers, does take humongous hits from the Banelings, but that's okay. It's a bit of a trade at the end. And Arctur still has 100 more supplies, so he's obviously going to win. But, yeah, it's a very good showing. He looked very confident. He knew exactly what to do against Bly. Maybe we're just seeing a new Arctur compared to the recent matches. Dang. GG. Arctur with the 1-0.
Yep, and deservedly so. There's honestly not much I can really add to that game, and I think if he would have babysit his first push a little bit better and he didn't leave those tanks all by themselves that were shooting at the hatchery, I actually think that could have already been a game-ending push, because Bly's army in that phase in the game was really just not good. Not a single Baneling out on the map, just a couple of Roaches and Ravages with only +1 armor. That could have already been devastating, but even when that went kind of bad for Arctur, I looked at the work account and it was like 70 SCVs against 58 drones. I'm like, well, okay, your push didn't kill him, but you're 12 workers ahead as a Terran. That's pretty damn amazing. I honestly think he just kind of won it with the Liberator harass. That put him so far ahead. Bly was really struggling with that.
That certainly helped, and then the Roaches didn't quite do what they wanted. Got a couple of SCVs, forced a reaction, but it didn't force Arctur off tilt, which can happen sometimes. You just see that they aren't confident anymore and they don't know what to do. But Arctur actually did a very nice transition. Just used those tanks for his eventual push, which is very well timed with a very good macro, and made it look kind of easy when Bly's specialty is making it not an easy game. At the very least, a complicated game, even if he's down. So Bly's gonna have to try something else. Maybe he wasn't planning that Roach attack, but then kind of felt forced into it. I mean, it did seem like an opportunity, right, when he lost the control of the third hatch. So let's see what he can do on Golden Wall, which is a weird map that I think Bly would like to play on.
Sorry, it's hard not to smile when I feel like you're in the car wash right now, Jess.
Yep.
All right, guys, Golden Wall is going to be map 2. I still don't think that Bly is down and out. We know that he's got plenty of builds up his sleeve, but a lot of Bly, his ZVT builds are a little wonky. And I did have somebody, and I truly forgot who it was. Somebody came in my chat and it's like, oh no, Arctur is like 6.5k right now on the European Grandmaster League ladder. And I was like, well, 6.5 is really good. At that point, you're basically, without a doubt, top 20 in Europe, because most of the people that are above 6.5, they have like 3 or 4 accounts that actually allow them to be that high. So I was like, well, that'd be really impressive, but I've never actually seen him that high up on the ladder. But in that first game, he made Bly look pretty damn average. And normally your name needs to be Uthermal, Clem, or Hero Marine to make Bly look that average. But Arctur did it as well. Very well done.
Let's see if maybe he has different plans. As you pointed out, Bly is a fan of the 2-base mutas, and that Hellbat attack he was planning would have been very effective. I could see Bly going back a little bit of a crutch a little bit there. And if he does it here, I think Arctur is very in tune to like, okay, I'm going to be prepared for that. As it seems to be popular on Golden Wall, seems to be popular from Bly. Arctur might just have his number in the second game of the series here in the bottom left. He's the blue Terran up 1. He is Arctur.
And in the bottom right side of Golden Wall, we look at the main base of the man who's making all 3 casters look pretty stupid over here. First series of the season, we all predict him to win, and he's getting stomped in game 1. Let's see if he can save our honor and dignity a little bit and turn this around. Hailing from Ukraine, it's Bly.
Our predictions looking a little bit silly after that first game, but Bly didn't really, I feel, get into perfect Bly scenario, which is really taking control of the game. Arctur didn't really ever lose control and then brought it back into his very, very quickly. It looks like he is going to be doing something a little bit different, which I actually really like. But when Bly gets to that mid game, say off the back of a 2-base muta and starts to do some pesky little run bys and actually kind of force Arctur to respond to him, that's when we see guys who aren't, Uthermal or Hero Marine start to kind of just flounder a little bit. They just don't know exactly what to focus on. But Arctur is changing things up by mining up those back rocks. He's already showing us that he has a different plan in mind than the very typical expansion to the low grounds. And that might kind of freak Bly out, actually.
Well, we see these builds unfold in front of our eyes. I, of course, want to let everybody know that we do have a B stream again. And I believe right now on the B stream, we've got a pretty fun PvP between one of the newcomers to the big stage, King Cobra, a man who I think loves Void Rays and definitely loves cannon rushes, as he's taking on Petit Drogo in his first series of that group. So that should be really fun as well. If you got the double monitor set up, bring it both. Get it all.
You might be a little late to that series, though. I believe Drogo 2-0'd him
nice.
15 minutes ago.
I'm a great hype man.
I love it. Yeah, but the next match, it's definitely worth noting. There are a ton of StarCraft matches happening right now, not just what you see on your screen. So definitely get the multi-stream up, get double monitors, and have a nice time, I would say. Arctur is still going for a regular expansion, but by going for that low ground, the other low ground, the behind the base expansion, he's at the very least changing up the pacing of this game. The way that Bly is going to anticipate attacks is going to be pretty different. I think Bly sees the lack of command center and just, after seeing the factory in the barracks, says, oh, okay, it's just behind you. He's not too shocked by that, but Golden Wall generally plays to the north, and we're kind of expecting a play to the south now. Whoa,
look at that. Arctur is building his third CC 3 minutes into the game on location. Who the hell does that? You never see this.
That is odd, but it's something that he can do as long as he thinks Bly won't also mine out the back minerals. And right now, I don't think it's really on Bly to mine out the back minerals, especially with the build that he's chosen. He's maybe thinking more like, okay, so that makes, I don't have to worry about being vulnerable because you're not doing a whole lot. I get full scouting in the main. And Arctur is like, actually, I don't have to worry about a lot. I'm getting a third CC on location. He's still going to deal with mutas, though. And that's not going to drag his, the field of how he has to protect what he has to protect is actually quite large now, and that's a little worrying.
I'm actually a little bit surprised to see him follow this up with Hellion Marauder as well.
Right?
And a Viking. Maybe he's like a little bit paranoid that Bly's making another weird attack with a couple of roaches, but that is absolutely not the case. What Arctur needs to get is probably an eBay, so he can start building some turrets. He's going to get an insane economy, just a much better economy than you normally see Terran players have in this matchup. But then at least he's going to spend some of those resources on getting turrets, because it's going to take a little while before he really gets out a proper marine count to start dealing with the mutas of Bly.
I guess because he can't really see what's coming out of that main base, he is kind of protecting himself from both options, which is a Marauder for the roaches if they popped out, and then a Viking does kind of help against an early expire, although it isn't the defense; it's just part of the defense.
Why is Bly building 2 spine crawlers?
I don't know. I don't know.
This?
And I don't know if it's actually on him to break these back rocks. Like now he has run by potential, but eventually Arctur's going to get a push going, and he's clearly going to be pushing from the bottom side. I mean, I guess the Hellions are no longer a worry, so all right.
We are going to have a couple of Zerglings maybe run into the natural, and just a couple links everywhere can already be very annoying, because Arctur is quite a bit out of position, but it's so bizarre to see Bly build 2 spine crawlers against a Terran player who actually went triple CC on location. This is not something you ever really see. And I believe he let both of them finish. Yes, he did. I mean, that's just an insane call to me.
I really don't know about that one. Maybe he was also planning on taking the back base and decided not to. So he was thinking 2 spine crawlers would hold against anything at the front, and he would also expand to the south. But that would be a risky move. These run-bys are doing so much more than they thought they would, by the way.
Yeah.
Like, Arctur, I like his game plan, except he forgot to defend his game plan. He was like, I guess he just really thought Bly would not mine out the back rocks, and hey, I didn't either. So, I mean, Arctur, I guess, doesn't have to deal with that usually. 18 SCVs killed just by the Lings, and he still doesn't have any missile turrets. Arctur, maybe so caught up in him doing something weird, has forgotten that Bly does this.
No, the mutas are just jumping on a couple of Marines. We've got more Zerglings running into the main base, and Arctur is going to lose quite a few additional SCVs, and this game is just completely falling apart, which is kind of a shame, because I love the initial game plan. But yeah, you're spot on. Like, the Hellions were at the top right side, while Zerglings were just ravaging like all 3 mineral lines at once.
And like I was saying before this even started, it's not that much of a surprise to see a Zerg, and specifically Bly, go for fast mutas on this map. It seems fairly common. So I think what I said was kind of correct, where Arctur was so caught up in what he was doing and then beating himself up probably about those Lings that he kind of forgot the mutas were on the way.
All right.
Yeah.
It is what it is, you know. Sometimes we just have StarCraft 2 games that have a lot of potential, and then they just rather end in a very odd way. This was one of them. So now it makes me think that Bly built the 2 spines because he was doing this super unexpected, which is, I'm going to mine out my own backdoor, which is something that maybe I shouldn't do against Terran on this map, but I'm going to do it anyway because, you know, his Hellions are going to be out on the map. And if the Hellions then want to dive into the natural, at least I've got spines. And let me just sacrifice my Zerglings on the other side of the map. It was 11 Zerglings, yes. 11 Zerglings killed 18 SCVs. When do we ever see that in professional StarCraft?
Basically never. I gotta imagine what also happened is that our Terran was like, oh, I can deal with this, and then let it happen, and then went, oh, I can't deal with this, and that's why also, because his Hellions, I feel like, did not respond immediately. He didn't go, oh shoot, I didn't realize he'd break down those back rocks. He just kind of kept on staying at the front of Bly's base, and it was certainly an awkward game overall. Bly, I feel like, got a bit of a freebie there. That was so much about what Arctur wasn't doing than it was about what Bly was doing.
If Arctur would have just sent 1 Marine or 1 Hellion to the backdoor minerals of Bly, then he could see that drones are mining there, and then he can already get in position. That's really, it could have been an SCV on patrol, it could have been a Marine on patrol, it could have been one of the Hellions that he had there, just to prevent that, because then indeed you don't have to worry about those mineral lines at the bottom until the mutas are out, but that's always going to take a little while, and maybe he could first keep those mutas at home by making a little Marauder Hellion attack. I don't really know. It just feels like we kind of got robbed of a game that could have been really awesome, but it didn't really happen.
Yeah.
Maybe it's a typical Bly victory. I don't know. What do I really know when I'm watching Bly?
Yeah. I'm just going to chalk it up to Arctur not expecting the Zerg to go ahead and mine out those minerals that fast, I think is what shocked him. Like, maybe eventually, but not the first thing. So a weird build order kind of loss, but more just like, non-reaction loss. It was a weird one, but we're on a game 3. And this guy certainly looked good in the more typical macro games, so maybe he can pull it again here on Ice and Chrome. In the bottom left is the blue Terran. He is Arctur.
Top right side, we look at the main base of the man hailing from Ukraine, representing team Raise Your Edge. It is Bly. All right, pull first. Maybe a couple of Zerglings running to the other side of the map in a very weird route, dragging the Reaper home, and then surprise roaches, maybe?
That's a very Bly thing to do. It's certainly one build that he's made his own. People think of roaches, and early roaches, I should say specifically. I think of Bly. But it also could just be something to freak Arctur out. I mean, we do paint a usually pretty correct picture of Bly being a little bit weirder, more aggressive. But he has, on occasion, just thrown out enough that looks like pressure and then actually gone into a macro game. So I could see that happening on Ice and Chrome. We're already paying close attention to what he does with his gas and with how many lings he builds, as should Arctur. But okay, he is going to SCV scout. I was like, oh, I don't know if you ever stop SCV scouting Bly. There we go.
And that's where things go wrong. It's like in the middle of a best of 5 or best of 7. If you think you've got a read on Bly, you're wrong, okay? Forget about whatever you think may happen. Always double check and confirm things when you play against the Ukrainian netman, because Bly will always do what you think doesn't make any sense, and because you think it doesn't make any sense, it hits so well and so hard, and in general just does a lot better. Now this SCV is going to spot the fact that we have a couple of Zerglings out on the map already, and that's of course a bit quicker than it's supposed to be. And he will now also see the timing of the hatchery. Can he see the gas though? Can he see the gas? He did not see the gas.
Certainly worrisome. You don't know what's was actually researching what could have been planted down behind that second gas. So good on Bly, of course, take the correct one, the one that was harder to scout. The Reaper can feel fairly confident to come over here. The Marine should be taking care of the things. There we go. So now it's the Reaper's job to see what's going on. It is just speed, but Arctur would really like to know that.
Well, with Bly, is it just speed or is it speed with 17 Zerglings? Surround the Reaper, Bly! Oh my goodness, he had a free surround there because of the grenade with the way that the drones bounced, but it seems like Bly is a bit distracted. This Reaper now already forcing 2 drones to morph into a building. I don't know, what is Bly exactly paying attention to?
I think his Overlord. He's trying to get his Lings across the map to help the Overlord out. It survived, but the Lings are now not doing anything because I think they were supposed to hit the Marines. There we go. And, well, they maybe could have gotten a scout earlier. It's closed up now. Reaper's going to come back in. Very insistent on getting the main base scouting. And he really wants a drone, I think. There
gets a drone, gets the second one, and that's already a damn sweet start. Because don't forget that the opening that Bly went for here, that's already not the most economic Zerg opening in the book. So picking off 2 drones with your Reaper, I think that's really sweet. And you got to feel good about that if you're Arctur.
Absolutely. Bly does not have a third hatchery. And, oh, there you go. Okay, right then. It's like the second time I've been like, something's off. And then as soon as I start to think it, a Roche Warren comes down. So this also could be a bit of an opportunity. Bly's like, oh, I got the Reaper. And that Reaper never scouted I didn't have a third hatch. He never went around to see the third hatch. So for him, with the Reaper scout as it currently is, it looks like a normal build. There very well could have been a third hatch somewhere. But it's going to take Arctur's Hellions going out to actually determine that, which can sometimes be scary when, yeah, exactly, Bly could absolutely make 16 lings just for seemingly no reason. So Arctur, gotta get the follow-up scout. A little bit of a pause, but we're good now, guys.
Yeah, Bly's light went off, but the light is on again. We can continue. I'm starting to get some Nidus vibes here, maybe, even though right when I say that, he's taking a lot of additional gases. So could be some weird way to get into Mutas as well, and maybe it's just a safety Roach Warren. But Bly is very capable of going for a Queen Roach Nidus build as well in this matchup. And often the bigger the map, the more that Bly wants to Nidus, because he's like, yeah, it takes a long time for units to run to the other side of the map, but it takes just as long through a Nidus channel, no matter the size of it. So I actually think it's going to be a Nidus.
I think so. And then if it doesn't win the game, following up with the Spire is definitely not out of Bly's wheelhouse. Arctur did send 2 Hellions across the map to check that third, I believe, so he knows that something is up. And that's pretty important, because if you are scared more so about Lings running into your natural, you don't send the Hellions out. But they see roaches, so it's just that, very few. And all right, adds on the 4th gas, just shows the roaches. Nidus Worm should be the current thing you're worried about, but Arctur's, he's got to actually keep a clock on, I guess, and be like, wait a minute, where's the Nidus Worm? And then get back in there and scout that it is, in fact, going to be a 2-base Spire. Certainly not the fastest one we've seen. It is a lot more of like trying to catch your opponent off guard, but it's going to be fast mutas.
A couple of roaches are just to be annoying here, and obviously if you can get the kill on, let's say, 2 of these depots and you take down 4 or 5 SCVs, it's not all that bad, but these kind of builds are just so weird. I know that this is Bly's wheelhouse, and this is where he's comfortable, right? In these weird low eco games where nobody really knows exactly what's happening, and he is kind of disrupting the build order of Arctur. I don't feel that good about this build right now for Bly.
I don't think it's we talk about good builds, talk about really streamlined builds that are trying to hit something specific, builds that don't lose their roaches and ravagers like this is happening. And Bly, I think, just chooses more of like, well, I hope, like, I'm pretty much sure you just won't expect it. But because people know Bly, I mean, to a degree, they're supposed to expect it. I said the same thing last game. Arctur did not anticipate those mutas. I'm a little worried that right now he was so focused that the trick kind of worked, that Bly showed roaches, and that's the first thing that Arctur worried about. He's not thinking about mutas. Where are the missile turrets? This push has barely any, your army that is protecting the 3rd has barely any anti-air. It's worrying.
It's not much right now, but we're still building 4 or 5 Marines at a time. Marines do have stim already. Combat shield is more than halfway done. It's definitely a little worrisome, but the Hellions have spotted the mutas now, so we can get a couple turrets up. I actually think with the amount of Marines that Arctur has at the moment, I think he's going to be okay. I don't think he should take too much damage here.
He's not going to take as much damage as last game, that's for sure. He is maybe going to lose a couple of mules. Maybe, but it's more so that I think this is the Bly game that I was thinking of more so, which had some early roaches and could have been a more extreme cheese, but eventually gets into mutas and into a bit of a macro game, finding them turrets just before it's done, but then finding a muta, 2 mutas in return. Not actually a terrible trade. Maybe even 3 mutas could go down here. No, not quite. And this missile turret's also not quite done. Arctur, no, please don't overstim your Marines, lose them all.
Quite a few SCVs are going down, but Arctur is pretty good in non-stop building SCVs. In those moments, that is a very ambitious spot to drop your Neo Mules, but they will survive for now. There is at least 1 missile turret in the main base. Bly is definitely getting quite a bit of value out of these mutas, but he's been losing a couple and could be in danger of losing a few more here. He's not paying attention. This game is just wild, and 13 SCVs. How the hell did Bly get 13 SCVs with like 8 mutas?
Not quite enough Marines to actually spread around, but that quickly changed. It really was a 5-second, 10-second difference that Arctur would have been totally prepared for those mutas. So just a good enough timing. 3 mutas did die in all that harassment, and that's 300. That can be considerable. Not a whole lot of creep spreads, some difficult hooks not done. Bly still has to worry about the main push, and what does he have to defend that?
Well, not much, because he was heavily supply blocked, and he was supply blocked for a long time, and a lot of money in the bank built 7 Overlords. Now Bly is buying time with another Zergling counterattack just to be really annoying, and Arctur is like, to hell with it. How much do you really have at home? The answer is not much. So I actually think that this hatchery of Bly is going to be in quite a bit of trouble. He was so supply blocked, yes, he's building 16 roaches at once right now, but they are just not on time.
If 16 roaches, this really wouldn't have been that bad. I think he's able to posture around his 3rd base, and it's certainly more of a struggle. But right now, Arctur just takes kind of freebie 3rd base and says thanks. Lost 5 more SCVs to the run by and a handful more Marines, I believe. But Bly needs to push this back and then probably double expand. And, well, he's still got a game involved, especially if he can actually fully take this out, not just forcing it to retreat, but actually finding it with those roaches, finding it with the mutas. Can't really retreat from that, so... I mean, losing a 3rd hatch sucks, but at the very least, he didn't defend with 20 roaches that also died, right? It was kind of just the 3rd hatch.
I think the biggest problem for Bly is that once again his economy feels so weak. He did such a good job in killing 13, 14 SCVs, however many it was, and he's down in workers again. And he really hasn't lost that many drones, he's just been supply blocked
but
too many times. He's going to make this attack right now with roaches and ravagers, but I really believe in the Marines here with Stim. I don't know if this is the fight that Bly really wants to take.
I don't know. There's not much splash here. No tanks. The Widowmine was actually taken out. The medevac count's not that high.
Oh,
Arctur doesn't have enough. He loses the third CC. He's forced to pull the SCVs into the fight, and they actually are not winning with those Marines. Despite having an upgrade lead, I just don't think there was enough army. Arctur was 40 supply down, which with a couple of well-positioned tanks, I mean, yeah, you can absolutely defend, but he had nothing. And losing that third CC, I mean, more than makes up for Bly losing this third hatch. This is the type of game, the one that confuses the Terrans that aren't quite the best, that Bly thrives in. This is what we were talking about.
Once upon a time, we said about Goody, that Goody drags his opponents down to his level and then beats them with experience. And those are some vibes that I'm getting over here, because all of a sudden Arctur was making some pretty big hiccups there as well when it comes to the macro, when it comes to the rally points. He actually had more units than that were standing next to the orbital. Just a lot of them were stuck in the natural, they were stuck in the main. He was just not putting them in the right position. Now one of his tanks is going to get picked off, and just casually losing an orbital like that. Even though he had 600-700 minerals in the bank, imagine having just 10 more Marines there. I'm really not that worried about that attack of Bly, especially off creep and the weak upgrades that Bly had.
Well, unfortunately, Arctur wasn't quite all prepared for that. I mean, he probably thought Bly just simply wouldn't counter. I mean, he barely held because of some macro mistakes, so like, why would he counter immediately? But Bly, he was certainly willing to check what was happening on that third base, and he found a very weak one. So well done for Bly. He's now almost maxed out to Arctur's 130 supply, as Arctur is still not on his third CC. That is still finishing up. Arctur, I don't think, can really push, actually. Like, this might just be a turtle time and hope that Bly doesn't kill you. Instead, he's pushing into Bly's full army.
Yeah, I understand having the idea of like maybe the 3 upgrade advantage can get something done, but eventually numbers and size of the army does matter as well. And Bly just simply has way more, even though he's working with mostly inferior units. Bly just morphed 20 Banelings as well, so this would be the absolute perfect moment for Bly to fight, because Banes are always good, no matter the upgrades.
Oh, Arctur. Oh my gosh. I mean, I love that he's so bold, but this is very scary. He's got a lot more tanks coming. Well, -1 now, but the tank number wasn't so bad. They're not all there. The Mutas are actually sacking themselves to take care of the tanks, as I think Bly was heavily considering moving into the fights. He decides not to take it. It's not really on him to take the fight. He can take this time, but all right, taking the fight it is. Running on top of those Marines, a little bit awkward, and the Banelings are not in the front line, so Arctur, I think, is getting a fight he wasn't supposed to, but can he really carry on with it?
Well, he's still saving for it. I have no idea what I'm watching, Jess. This is a little bit of a clown fiesta at this point. Look how deep the Marines are. So far away from the medevac. What happened to the medevac? Are we ever going to heal these Marines up? It seems like the answer is yes, eventually. Now we picked up the Marines, gonna have to drop them. At the same time, Bly still being annoying with Mutas, trying to pick off a couple of reinforcements. I mean, that was just a weird fight, because Arctur actually move commanded his Marines and Marauders into the Roaches as well in the beginning of the fight, and he's like, whoop, wrong neighborhood, I'm going back. And I don't know, this was just weird.
Arctur is, I think, just really honing in on the idea that once the Lings and Banelings are gone, sometimes those Roach Ravager like leftovers are very good pickoffs, basically. Like they're expensive still, and they're easier to pick off when they're not protected, but I think he's a little overzealous. His medevac count has never been truly convincing, and his tank count at one point was really, really, really good. It's been reduced. So now we're talking about 3 sieged up. They're pounced upon by the Ravagers. 1 still not sieging up, dealing with the Mutas, I guess. It was helping. And now it's sieging up, I think, a little bit too late. Bly, it looked very weird, looked very shaky in that first game, but I think he finally found the Bly game he was looking for in Ice and Chrome, and he's going to take it.
Yep, we have a few more Banelings coming in. There is just no HP left on these Marines, and they're going to sim forward one more time. But I think even the Ravagers, especially with the reinforcements showing up for Bly as well, I think it is going to be enough for the Ukrainian veteran, who's going to pick up his first $125 of the season, because all of these players do get $125 for winning a best of 3 in the group stage, which is super awesome. GG gets called, and Bly